Have you ever watched a game of basketball? If so, you've probably noticed that the players all shoot the ball the same way. They reach up and they extend their arm like this. This is called the hand in the cookie jar technique because it looks like you're reaching for a cookie in a high up jar. This type of shot is the hardest to block and the most accurate and easily replicable, which means you can do the same shot form every time, and that makes your shot more accurate and precise. Basketball is an incredibly popular sport nowadays, and most people are going to shoot a ball sometime in their lifetime. I've been playing basketball since I was about 5 years old, and I've had many coaches, and they've all taught me this method. In this speech, I will outline the basics of the hand in the cookie jar technique versus other methods, how you set up your shot before you shoot, and what the shot is going to look like while we're actually shooting. So first, the hand in the cookie jar technique, as I showed you a little bit earlier, is when you take the ball, you shoot it like so. Like you're reaching for a key in a high up jar. It is the hardest to block because you're shooting from way up here versus like with the granny shot, for example, you shoot from down below. You throw it up, and that's very easy to block if someone's standing right in front of you. Some other shot forms include the football shot, where you launch it over your shoulder, and the chest shot, where you shoot it from down here and you throw it up. Those are all either easy to block or inaccurate. So the hand in the cookie jar technique is the best method, or the most accurate method to use for a game of basketball. Now that we understand what the hand in the cookie jar technique is and why it is the most widely used, let's discuss how we set up our shot before we shoot. So what we want to do is we want to have one hand behind the ball and one hand on the side, because especially for a bigger basketball, I know this one's pretty small, but for a bigger basketball, it's very hard to hold it with one hand like this. So you need that other hand on the side to make sure it doesn't fall out when you're going up to shoot. And we want to keep it about waist high, because when we bring it up, we get extra momentum when we have it a little bit lower, versus if we keep it up here and we just shoot like that, we're going to have less power in our shot. And we also want to be directly facing the basket. We don't want to be facing some other way or off to the side. I know that may sound obvious, but some people shoot kind of sideways like this, and that makes the ball not want to go straight. So it's very important to have your feet facing the basket, having your shoulders square to it. And we also want to have our knees bent slightly, because especially as we get farther away from the basket, we're going to need some power from our lower body to be able to throw the basketball far enough to actually get to the rim. And now that we understand how we set up our shot before we shoot it, let's talk about what our shot's going to look like. So we've got it all set up here. What we do is we bring our arm up, and it should form a 90-degree angle. And then we straighten our arm and flick our wrist. And we want to do that so that we get backspin on the ball, which we get when we flick our wrist, like so. The ball stand backwards, which is what we want it to do. And we also want to keep our arms straight when we're shooting, because if we've got it kind of our elbow out and the arm is not straight, the ball isn't going to go straight either. And we of course want it to go straight, so it goes in the basket. And we also, when we shoot, we want to extend our legs like this, or jump a little bit. I know I'm really close to this basket, so I don't really need to jump, but on a larger scale hoop, and when we're farther away, we're going to need it to jump so we get some extra power on that shot. So it's going to look something like this. Well, I didn't extend my arm all the way there because the basket's right here. I would throw it way too far, but it's going to look like when we actually shoot it. And in summary, I discussed what the hand in the cookie jar technique is versus other methods, how we set up our shot before we shoot it, and what the shot looks like while we're actually performing the motion. again, basketball is a widely popular sport, and the knowledge of knowing how to shoot is something that may be applicable in people's lives. No matter whether you're a professional athlete who plays basketball all the time, or you're someone who just wants to have fun with your kids, everybody shoots the ball the same way.